Hi folks, we're here with an SB 866 update for you, and we have a few interesting tidbits about this. So what exactly, Drew, happened this morning?
Well, the assembly floor, they had another floor session. So this was another opportunity for SB 866 to come up and get voted on. So it could have either been rejected or passed to the governor or basically delayed again. And so today it was actually amended. So there was a proposed amendment brought on behalf of the author, Senator Scott Wiener, by an assemblywoman, Buffy Wicks. And the amendment actually changes the age of consent for vaccinations from 12 to 15. So this is most likely an attempt to garner more support for it by upping the age closer to 18 to make people more comfortable voting for it. But that doesn't seem to have solved the problem for everybody. There's been a couple statements put out by legislators, and the opposition is still strong. Online and in person, sending in letters, visiting legislators, there's still a lot of opposition even at 15, because that's not the issue. It's the fact that it's cutting parents out of the loop. So
yeah, it doesn't change O'Donnell's reason for opposing it at
no,
all,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, Patrick O'Donnell, his problem with it was that parents are cut out of the loop, not that 12 was too young. And so his position still stands. And so there was also another legislator, Assemblyman Carlos Villapadua from District 13 out in Stockton. He put out a statement saying, "I've always been supportive of our vaccination and public health efforts. However, I believe taking parents out of the decision-making process is a step too far. As a father of 4 younger daughters, I would appreciate being a part of this process for them, and I believe all parents should have the right to be a part of it as well for their own children." So this statement from him was after the amendment, so clearly he still has a problem with it. And there were 25 assembly members that did not vote on this bill today. There were 33 that voted in support, all Democrats, and there were 21 that voted against this amendment. 3 of those were Democrats as well, and the rest were Republicans.
So they didn't pass it,
No.
but they did take a vote. So what was the vote about?
So the vote was to amend it. The vote was to change the bill, and so from there it has to go to the Senate for concurrence.
After it does get passed, right?
Yeah.
But it has to go through that vote first.
Yes.
So this morning, they didn't vote to pass the bill. They voted just on whether or not the individual members liked the amendment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting that there was such an interesting breakdown of the votes on whether or not they even like this amendment language that was going in, let alone, they didn't even touch a vote this morning on the bill itself. It was just a matter of voting on whether they like this change of age 12 to age 15 in the text of the bill.
Yeah. And there's been some statements from some Republican lawmakers saying that they believe this is because they didn't have the votes at age 12, and the hope is that age 15 doesn't help that.
Try move the age and try again.
Yeah, exactly. So as of now, it needs to be put in print, the actual amendment. So in print means, the updated version of the bill needs to be available online. And there's a rule for Senate bills, Rule 76A, that says that an amendment has to be in print for 72 hours before it can actually be voted on or heard again or basically moved. And so what that means is that the next possible floor session is Monday the 20th at 1 p.m. And so 72 hours before that is tomorrow, Friday the 17th at 1 p.m. So if the updated version of the bill isn't in print by that time tomorrow, it can't be heard on Monday.
Theoretically,
exactly. And the rules are obviously not always absolute, unfortunately.
Right. So, but assuming that we're following the rules on this bill, it looks like they would need to have that new version of the bill in print by 1 tomorrow afternoon in order for it to come up for a vote on the floor session Monday.
Yeah.
Either way, they have plenty of time to get this bill updated in print and voted on in the assembly. So there's a couple of things about this. One is I guess the bad news is that they're just amending this bill to, like you said, try to make it easier for some people to vote yes on it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the helpful pieces here is that it gives us more time to weigh in. It gives constituents more time to urge their assembly members to vote no on SB 866. It also seems like we have seen, like you said, these statements coming out from different people. We've seen various people really wrestling with this, and we saw in the vote this morning on the amendment language an incredible number of people not voting. They didn't feel comfortable or confident voting on this amendment.
Yeah.
We had 33 members of the assembly vote yes on it, on the amendment language,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had 21 people vote no. So that's a whole lot of people with an assembly with 80 members. That's 25 people that didn't weigh in at all. So something about that's a lot of people to not weigh in on it, which generally, if it's a bad bill, that's a good thing. That works in our favor because any what you might see as on Ledge Info is NVR, which means no vote recorded. NVRs are a good thing for the person that's opposing the bill because it acts as a no vote, because you need a certain number of yes votes for it to pass. In the assembly with 80 members, you have to have 41 votes in order for that bill to get through. So if you have people that are either voting no or not voting at all, what really matters is how many people vote yes.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that mix of no votes or no vote recorded, that those both achieve the same thing. So if you just have less than 41 yes votes, the bill goes down. So that's what we're hoping for here on SB 866, is to see a similar breakdown to this would be great.
Yeah, this if this is how the votes break down in the final yay or nay on the bill itself, not just an amendment, then this bill doesn't pass, and that would be great.
Yeah, and I don't know that we can't really predict that that's the way it's going to go, because this was just amendment language, and we aren't necessarily expecting that the people that all voted that didn't vote at all on this bill would have the same vote if the bill actually came up. But it is interesting to see those numbers and see there's a bit of a lack of confidence over what to do in this very controversial bill, which has gotten a lot of attention. And that's you guys making an impact with your phone calls, with your letters, with your visits to legislators' offices, both at the Capitol as well as in the district offices. So thanks for all that hard work, because I think it's really paying off, and it's really been a significant help on this bill.
Yeah, a lot of assembly members have heard from their constituents and even from people outside their own districts voicing concerns about this, and that does make a difference.
Yeah. So we have a few more days to have an impact before the next possible vote. It's not necessarily going to be voted on Monday. It could be later next week. There's actually how many possible floor sessions could it be voted on in the rest of this month?
Yeah, so in the rest of this month, before the entire legislature goes on a break for the month of July, there are 4 more possible floor sessions. So it'll be the next 2 Mondays and the next 2 Thursdays. And those are the possible times that it could be brought up again. But after that, there is a month-long break by the entire legislature.
So theoretically it could be waited on until August. But that's not to say we should just sit on our hands. We need to be continuing to be vigilant. As we've seen, it's had an impact. So thanks for all your hard work on this, and keep up the good work. I appreciated the little tidbit that you shared with me about the fellow Democrats that voted no on this bill.
Yeah,
they share something in common.
Yeah, they're all Democrats, like you said, but they also all have the common theme. They all have 4 kids.
Interesting.
So I think, and even Assemblyman Villa-Padua, he mentioned that. He said he has 4 young daughters, and I think this is an issue that parents, regardless of party, are going to have some second thoughts about.
Yeah, it gives them not all will have the same second thoughts, but at least it gives them pause. And if they have children at home, or remember having young children at home, it's something that helps them think through this. So it's something to consider when you're perhaps meeting with a legislator in the district office, that you might ask about their own kids, because it's important that they think through this in a more personal way, instead of just with their "I'm a legislator" glasses on. I think it's important for them to think through it as a parent, if they are a parent. So anything else to say about SB 866 before we move on to a couple other things?
I don't think so. I think we had a little update on the mandatory kindergarten bill.
SB 70 is the mandatory kindergarten bill, which we've updated you on several times. We did get amendment language in that requires that the bill SB 70 only applies to students that are going into public school. So that amendment language is still in there. The bill has been kind of rewritten and put into different code sections just in the last month. So our amendment language went in, then they kind of shuffled everything around, moved all the wording around in kind of a confusing way, in my opinion. But they reconfigured the whole bill, but our language is still in there. So private homeschools, homeschool families, or families that want to send their kids to a private school, they're not bound by any requirements in this bill. So so we're grateful that that language is still in there. But if you do have so we have officially removed our opposition because they cut out all private education from the bill. So from that point of view, we're thankful and glad that they did that. But from the parental rights perspective, it still does impede on parental rights, because if parents do want to send their kids to public school, it does require kindergarten, whereas before, under current law, we don't have mandatory kindergarten. So it does impede on parental rights in California. So if that's a concern for you personally, I would go ahead and talk to your legislator about that as well. And make sure that they know. Right now, that bill has gone through the Senate. It is in the Assembly, and it has gone through the Assembly Ed Committee, and is currently in the Assembly Appropriations Committee waiting for a hearing to be assigned. Is that right? So so you can go ahead and give your Assembly member a call, because pretty soon that bill will be going to the floor in the Assembly as well. And you mentioned the July break that's coming up in a couple of weeks. The legislature will be fairly busy over the next couple of weeks, so I'd appreciate your prayers for that. As we've seen a number of gut and amends. Could you want to explain what a gut and amend is? Yeah, sure. It's a fun little thing that happens on occasion, where from our perspective, it's a bill that it could be a bill that we're monitoring, or that I've seen in passing, and one day it has the same bill number, but then one day it just has a completely different bill. It's like it's gutted. Everything that was in there is taken out, and then it is amended with an entirely new bill. So because there's deadlines on when new bills can be introduced, sometimes legislators will prioritize other bills that they believe have a better chance of passing. And so they will
gut a bill that is going nowhere, or that they want to move till later or abandon entirely, and put in a new bill that they believe is going to be more likely to pass, and or that is more important to them at the time. And so we've been seeing a lot of those because the deadline for introducing new legislation has passed. And so any new bills, if somebody has a new bill entirely that they want to introduce, they have to take out an old bill. And so a lot of the changes that we've been seeing are gut and amends from bills that we were familiar with, and then all of a sudden you start from scratch, and you have to investigate the bill entirely again. And so I think that'll probably only increase in the next couple of weeks before the break.
Right.
So
it increases the need for us to do more analysis on new legislation that we haven't seen before. Which can sometimes take a lot of extra time and a lot of brain power, which can be exhausting. So pray for us. We appreciate that. And we're looking forward to the break, as I'm sure a lot of legislators are, but we are definitely looking forward to that. And things hopefully slowing down a little bit. There are always still discussions happening at the Capitol building about legislation through that time, but at least it does slow down a little bit, gives us a little bit of a chance to breathe with no committee hearings and things like that. So then things will come back strong in August. So be praying for us, and we're thankful that you're all out there doing great work, contacting your legislators. So appreciate you, and we're glad to be doing this in teamwork with you.
So thank you.
Thank you all, and bye for now.